Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Wednesday morning. I am recording. I think we have everything going. This is the time of day we gather to draw a toy from the toy box, a random object from the random object. I'm just going to spritz these watercolors to make sure they're nice and juicy later on, so that when it comes time to use them, we don't have to scrub them. We'll just be able to dip our little water brush into them and use them politely, if you will. Today, where am I? What's going on with all of my stuff? What am I looking for? This, right here. That's what I'm looking for. Today, we have a bust of JFK. And not all presidents get a bust right off the bat. Most of them go into their libraries before they do anything else, and it doesn't usually happen until after they die, or at least until long after their presidency. But Kennedy's bust was pushed through rapidly because of his untimely death. I don't know, I can't tell how loud the music is. It seems loud on my end, but I can't tell what you guys can hear. Kennedy's untimely death was a shock to the world because this was broadcast. This was the first broadcast time. It was when television and radio were live, and up until that point, stuff like this didn't get broadcast immediately around the world. And so I have my mother in my ear, and if she can hear me on the television screen, I need her to turn her computer down because I can hear myself over my phone. But Kennedy's death was practically televised. It was that instantaneous. It was that instantaneous. And I know television 63 was not a thing, was not in everybody's household, but the news was instantaneous. The radio, there were people who heard the shots on the radio in Dallas because it was live. Everybody knows where they were when it happened, so everybody who was alive at the time knows where they were when Kennedy was shot. And so it was a major event. Because of that, they kind of rushed through his presidential stuff, his library, his bust. They commissioned all of his stuff faster than they would have done all of the others. Uh-oh. I think my mother hung up. Alright, so we have the bust of Kennedy here, and I thought that we could talk a little bit about his legacy, not so much about his politics or his death, but his legacy, because honestly, he had a pretty interesting time period to take over as president. This poor guy became president in the middle of the Cold War, which some say he escalated and others say he de-escalated. But you know, his supporters will say that he escalated it, and his detractors will say that his supporters will say that he de-escalated it. His detractors will say that he de-escalated it. I got that backwards again, didn't I? His supporters will say that he de-escalated it, and his detractors will say that he escalated it. There we go. But doesn't either way you look at it, this poor guy became president right smack in the middle of the Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, he took over presidency right after Eisenhower used the federal guards to walk Ruby Bridge into elementary school, and continued the policy of using federal officers to enforce integration policies. And it wasn't a popular movement. It wasn't popular at the time. It was something that was being done, and it had to be done, and it was important that it was done. But it wasn't popular. It wasn't popular, and so it was constant issues, constant battles for him every day as president. And so whether you liked him or not, the strong jawline. I don't feel like this toy really gives him. I don't feel like this toy really gives him the strength of jaw and the appearance that he had. But I have to remember it's a toy, and it's not actually JFK sitting here. It's not actually Martin Sheen. My parents accused me of drawing these the night before. It says in the chat room that the music is loud now. I'll turn the music off. I don't even like this music. My parents accused me of drawing these the night before and practicing. I think that today is going to be quite the demonstration that I am not practiced at this. But every day I do this is practice, right? Every time I do one of these, I get just a little bit more practice. These features need to be just a little bit bigger. Because they need to fill his face more. But I think we're about ready to ink that. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're right on time. Yeah, everybody knows where they were November 2nd. No, I'm sorry, November 22nd, 1963. When, if they were alive at the time, everybody knows where they were and what they were doing when it happened. That is one of those moments in time that is it's a day that'll live in infamy, if you will. It was because, like I said, it was instantaneously known around the world that it happened. It was a parade, and it was a televised parade, but it wasn't televised nationally. It was not. It was one of those things that up until then they really didn't carry that kind of stuff on the national stage, because it was just another parade. But since then, they always do it because they never know when there's gonna be another event like that, and they don't want to miss it. So that began that part of Kennedy's unfortunate legacy is that he began the era of 24/7 news coverage of the president. Whatever the president was doing was breaking news. If the president was going somewhere, it was breaking news. Because somebody may shoot him and we need to know about it. Can't talk, Harding. I don't think my drawing is going to look any more like Kennedy than the statue does. So mostly it's the hair. I guess if you get the hair right, everybody will know who it is. And then if you label the base of it. Okay. But yeah, that was one of those events that everybody knows. It's kind of like 9/11. If you're from the 2000s era, you know where you were when 9/11 happened. There's a few historical incidents like that where if you were alive, you know where you were when you heard the news. And that scene of Jackie Onassis reaching out there for him, and then reaching back for the Secret Serviceman to pull him on the car to help. I've been to Arlington. I have seen the spot. You would think there would be more going on there. It's pretty peaceful there. My mom says she was in 8th grade assembly when they got the word that Kennedy had been shot. All right. But really, the thing that, for me, the Kennedy's politics at this stage in the game, as I was reading through it, I can see that it was. I mean, they were all big deals when it was happening. Not the shooting, not the. Of course, that was still a big deal, but the politics, the Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement, all of that seems so. At this stage of the game, the way things are going, it's all kind of been overshadowed by more recent. I don't want to say undoings of those things, but the political attitude is much more divided today. And I don't want to get into politics. We are absolutely not going to get into politics here. But it kind of makes the stuff that happened during Kennedy's presidency a bit blasé. You know, the Cold War, that was heady stuff. We were practicing for, we were practicing for nuclear war. We had nuclear war drills. I think my generation was probably the last generation to have nuclear war drills. But it all seems, you talk about it now, especially the young people. You talk about it now, and they're like, "Okay, Grandpa, that's interesting, Grandpa. Let's get you back to your room and get you some meds. Get you your meds." Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. So let's talk about the stuff that really was interesting. To me, as I was reading through it, the stuff that was really interesting about Kennedy was after the fact. The interviews with Jackie, the establishment of the mythos of Camelot. Jackie did an interview with Life magazine, and she specifically chose the writer that she was willing to work with. And Jackie Onassis was his wife. Jacqueline Kennedy was his wife, if you're not familiar who Jackie was. But she handpicked the interviewer, and she got to review what was said prior to it being published. And I don't know how popular that was back in the day, but today, can you imagine them going to Melania and saying, "Hey, is it all right if we say this about your husband?" Can you imagine the press going to Jill Biden? I'm not sure they didn't, but can you imagine? Because it seems like today they're always trying to get the scoop. They're always trying to get that big break before anybody else. I can't imagine the press going to the wife and saying, "Is it okay if we say this?" My mother says the significance of it happening has been lost. Yeah, because it's blasé. People try to shoot at public officials all day now. It's commonplace. And in some instances, people will say, "No, it's deserved. It's called for." It's not. But here we are. But anyway, so Jackie goes to the press, goes to Life magazine, and she basically edits what they're going to say, has full editorial control over what they're going to say, which would absolutely be unheard of today. I don't think there's any way in the world we would let our press do that today. Our press would let that happen today. Alright, I need to dry this just a little bit. I didn't mean to get that spot right there. Alright. But I do want this just a touch darker right through here. Because that's supposed to be a shadow that comes down. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, that just made his face look dirty. Let me dry this real quick and then we'll ink it. So you know the drying is the best part of the show. Everybody loves the drying part. The hairdryer, it just wouldn't be a show if we didn't run the hairdryer at least once during the show. I mean, sometimes I feel like I should just run the hairdryer off to the side, whether I'm actually going to use it or not. Don't you think? I mean, honestly. Alright. Can't talk, Harding. Where was I? You know, and then there was mystique around what happened, right? Everybody involved was killed instantly. Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby almost instantly. So there's the mystique about, you know, what really happened. And the fact that the documents about it were sealed for 50, 70 years. 70 years? Is that right? 70 years? Over 70 years? 75 years the documents were sealed? I don't think they were intentional. I don't think they were meant to be sealed for that long. But every time they were supposed to be unsealed, For some reason, they were not. And so that's the rise of the conspiracy theories. You know, until then, we just kind of trusted. The government wouldn't lie to us. The press wouldn't lie to us. And then you get movies like, you get the miniseries. The thumbnail for this episode of the Sketching and Copy Live references Martin Sheen. That's the miniseries from 1983. You get Martin Sheen playing the president, showing all the drama of the Bay of Pigs and all that cool stuff when we faced off the nuclear crisis with Cuba. And then you fast forward, you got from there you go to Goonies, where Mouth they're in the caves under the city, and they're looking through the coins, and Mouth picks up the coins and he says, "These are not doubloons. This has a picture of Lincoln on it. This has a picture of Washington on it. This has a picture of Martin Sheen." Martin Sheen, you idiot! That's Kennedy. Right, and then you fast forward to Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone making the movie JFK. Hi, Claudia. I survived in time. Maybe a hearing device. Maybe. Uh-oh. What am I missing? Just back from the hospital. Everything okay? They made a little hole in my ear for fluid coming out. I hear better now. Well, that's good that you're hearing better now. But then you fast forward, like I said, to the Oliver Stone back in '91. He makes a JFK movie, and that movie is, that is the first introduction to all the conspiracy theory that everybody gets, and it's riddled with artistic license. And he readily admits there's a whole lot in that movie that never happened. There was no soldier that came forward. It was all stuff that was just done for dramatic effect. You can't get your history from the movies. Anyway, there's my rendition of Martin Sheen or JFK. Let's go back to this camera right here, and let's turn the rotating cameras off. All right, we're gonna stop recording. Turn this microphone off, and then I can eject everything. I need to get another recording device that will record to the cloud. All right. So let's see if I can get this from my perspective, so you can see what I was looking at. Okay. So there's what I was looking at. All right. So that is what I did today. Wednesday, July 2nd. It is Wednesday, right? July 2nd. The little girl has pulled the capsule for tomorrow. Let's see what she's pulled for us. If I can make my mouse work. Let's see what she's pulled for us. It's a clear capsule. I can see what's in there, and I already knew what it was when I picked it up. But this is Australopithecus. This is a skull of Australopithecus. I'm not even sure. Tomorrow we'll talk about whether they even have a full skull of Australopithecus, or if this is a proposed skull of Australopithecus. This is considered to be Lucy, the first hominid, the first human ancestor the oldest human ancestor that they've discovered up to this point. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. If you're watching this at 5:30 in the morning on Thursday, July 3rd, then you're watching the trailer, and we're about to do this. Stick around. So, that said, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to this every morning. Claudia, I'm glad that you're okay. She did have ear surgery. I'm glad that worked out for you. And tomorrow is your birthday. Happy birthday, Claudia. So be sure and come in so we can all sing to you. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to this every morning when I get to have a little time with my art besties, making a little bit of art every day, a little accountability to my art practice. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance. Somebody says to take your mic off, because that is how we know that the lag has caught up with the stream, and I don't have to worry about being cut off mid-sentence. Being cut off mid-sentence, haha,